Seeking to extend his decade-long rule, Sri Lanka's president announces snap elections, but can economic success and memories of victory over Tamil rebels outweigh accusations of nepotism and near unlimited powers? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Jane Dutton. On the one hand, Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa has plenty to be proud of. Memories of his 2009 victory over Tamil separatists still carry some weight. And economic growth since then has been the fastest in South Asia. But Rajapaksa's popularity appears to be fading. His United People's Freedom Alliance suffered its worst performance on his watch in local elections in September, and calls are growing for him to cut back his virtually unlimited powers as president and carry out democratic reforms. Rajapaksa has now called snap elections scheduled for January to stem the opposition's momentum, campaigning for an unprecedented third term in office, having scrapped a two-term limit. Manal Fernandez in Colombo helps set up our discussion.
The much-awaited proclamation by the president declaring his intention to seek a further mandate for a third presidential term being signed off this afternoon. We saw a tweet basically posted on the president's official account, and this was confirmed by the presidential spokesman a short while ago. Having declared this intention and signed the proclamation, the next step is for the election commissioner to set down a date, essentially for the nominations to be handed in and then for the actual election. I did speak to the election commissioner a short while ago before the proclamation, and in terms of the timeframes that this thing involves with the proclamation, essentially nominations should be called between the 8th and the 11th of December, and essentially if we're looking at the date for the presidential election, it would probably be between the 6th and the 10th of January. Now, the government pulling out all the stops, indeed, over the last day or two, we've seen the city of Colombo plastered with posters, with cutouts of the president, all wishing him well for a possible third term. Very much a sort of an expression of confidence in the president and his term. The opposition, on the other hand, remaining very secretive about its common opposition candidate, coming together for the first time in many years on a sort of a common platform. Given the popularity of President Mahinda Rajapaksa, the opposition admitting and accepting the fact that they would have to put in all essentially their forces together in a bid to take on the president. Now, there is also a campaign that has been going on from the grassroots, bringing out the fact that the president is constitutionally not able to seek a third term. Even a former Chief Justice has expressed this opinion that the Constitution disqualifies the president the moment he declares and is elected to a second term. However, the president has referred this issue to the highest court in the land and has got the all clear from the Supreme Court.
Let's talk about this more by bringing in our guests for Inside Story. In Colombo, we have Rajiva Wijesena, a member of parliament and advisor to President Rajapaksa on reconciliation. Joining us from Dublin is Surendran, spokesperson and director of Strategic Initiative for the Global Tamil Forum. And completing our panel in Colombo is Harsha De Silva, economic spokesperson for the opposition United National Party lawmaker. Welcome, all of you. Rajiva Wijesena, why has he called for snap elections? Why couldn't he wait?
I think one of the reasons he wants to have elections now is that he realizes that his popularity is slipping, and the longer he waits, the less well he will do. But I also think that there's a very dangerous collection of people around him who are treating him as a sort of cash cow. You know, they blockaded him from understanding the reality of what is going on in the country, and they sort of let him out of this fortress only in order to use him, because he is undoubtedly popular, to use him to win elections. And the minute he'll win the election, if that happens, they'll shut him up again and go on their merry way. So I think it is really a great pity that he has gone for these early elections. Our party told him that if he went for elections without the reforms, some of which he pledged himself, we would not be able to support him. And that's why I say that, I'm very happy to be with Al Jazeera again, but I do feel that the panel is really balanced very much against the president.
Interesting. So you advise him against it, and you believe that he's being used to reach this aim of calling these snap elections. Harsha De Silva, what is your response to this? I mean, is this a sign of confidence or weakness?
Well, I agree with Professor Rajiv Vijayasinghe that the president's popularity is dwindling, actually. It's not slipping. And therefore, he needs to somehow get back into power and hold it for the next, 6, 8, I don't know how many years, because the law doesn't seem to apply. The people, on the other hand, are finding it extremely difficult to make ends meet. So while on the one hand, the president, he realizes that he needs to quickly get it done in order to lock his next term in, the people are determined to not to let that happen. And that's why the opposition has now got together for the first time in many years. And we will be by perhaps tomorrow, later tomorrow night, announce who our common candidate is to take on Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Yes, because this will be a different dynamic for the opposition, won't it? I mean, you really do have to get together, and there's going to be a certain amount of horse trading, working out who is going to be the best candidate and how you can all benefit from this.
Yes, I mean, we've been working on this for the last several weeks, and even till 3 o'clock in the morning this morning. We were negotiating, and it is a win-win for all parties concerned, because by and large, a vast number of people, both in government, in Mahinda Rajapaksa's coalition, and outside, obviously, who does not want to see him serve another term. So our coalition is going to consist of both opposition members as well as those currently serving within his coalition.
Suren, would you like to see him serve another term? Do you think this is a good call, these snap elections?
Well, I like to agree with my panelists with me, but it's strange that Mr. Rajiv Vijayasinghe kind of blames somebody else and almost makes Rajapaksa looks like a captive of others, making that he has made this election now. He's called the elections now. The elections are called because come March 2015, the UN Human Rights Council is going to bring out a damning report accusing the government under President Rajapaksa of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. The economy is dwindling. The foreign currency reserves are coming down so much that the IMF has demanded that the public expenditure should be dropped dramatically. The inflation is going up. People can't feed their children. The security situation is poor. The judiciary is politicized. So somebody mentioned, one of the panelists, with all due respect, mentioned about President Rajapaksa. Oh, no, actually, the introduction said that President Rajapaksa went to the Supreme Court to get his third term approved. But the judiciary is politicized. There is no independent commissions anywhere in the Sri Lankan structure. The relationship with India is at the lowest. The international community is looking for President Rajapaksa for political solutions. The Tamil people, the most affected community, is looking for a political solution, which Rajapaksa has been deferring for the last 5 years. The Muslim community, the most affected at the moment, Rajapaksa has made the Buddhist Sinhalese against the Muslim community. He is attacking the mosques. He has Bodhubala Sena, a government-sponsored organization, attacking the Muslims. The Christians and the Buddhists are in fight. The Tamil Hindus and the Buddhists are in fight. Not necessarily the people. The government makes it such a nationalistic state that if he waits for the right time for the elections, he knows that he is going to be beaten badly. Okay. So he calls an election a snap election, and that's the reason he's calling a snap election, not because somebody else is forcing.
Excuse me, jumping in here. You raised many points, and I would certainly like to work through those a little later on in the program. But Rajiva, maybe you'd like to respond to those accusations that rather this is a sense of a man who is losing his popularity, that he's getting very desperate and that he has to call these elections now, otherwise his future as leader is doomed.
Well, that's precisely what I said already. But I think where I would differ from Suren is that I think the president does feel beleaguered, and it's a strange combination of wanting to continue in office himself, because obviously he thinks that he is the best person for the country, and he has certain achievements to his credit. I think it was very important that he got rid of terrorism on our shores, and he did try to rebuild the North, not as productively or, let's say, in consultation with people as he should have, but certainly there has been a lot of development. But one of the reasons he does feel so beleaguered is precisely the confusion between this international pressure on him, which comes for a variety of reasons. In part, there's a lot of pressure on certain governments, and they've admitted it, to try and persecute him for war crimes. In part, it is because there is certain worry about his foreign policy. I think one reason it is important that Mahinda Rajapaksa does not win election is because if he wins, I think the consequences for our forces will be very negative. I believe that our forces, these in direct contrast, I think, to Suren, fought a relatively decent war compared with a lot of other people. And if Mahinda Rajapaksa and his foreign minister and the people who really control the foreign ministry continue with their completely absurd attempts at confrontation with everybody, so there is perfect right to say that they are being very foolish about India, which were really very helpful to Sri Lanka in dealing with terrorism, but at the same time did so on behalf of the Tamil people who had suffered from terrorism. And
I think the question is certainly how he dealt with the Tamils towards the end of the war. Excuse me talking over you there. I just want to bring in Harsha De Silva very quickly. I mean, do you think the president believes that he is above the law because of those successes and because he's surrounded by so many of his supporters and his family? I mean, he changed the constitution, and there are many who believe that he shouldn't be running for president again, that he's not legally in a position for re-election.
Yes, I mean, certainly it is unprecedented. The Constitution was changed, the 18th Amendment was brought in with a purchased two-thirds majority, and he abolished the term limit as the introduction mentioned. And now he's got an all clear from a totally politicized Supreme Court. So it does not apply. I mean, it is a strange country to live in because the rule of law is something that you read about or say we used to have a rule of law. So the context is very different from what it used to be, say, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So the other issue is, who is he beleaguered? He said, Rajiva said that he is cornered, he's beleaguered, but by whom? Who are these people who's keeping him against his wishes? It's his own brothers and his own family. So I don't think it's been done, without the express knowledge of the president. I mean, he's part of this whole thing. I don't agree that he's been used. I think he's doing it on his own. He has the support of his brothers. He wants to do this. His brothers are supporting him. His sons are supporting him. They're getting it done, or they're trying to get it done. So I don't necessarily agree that the president is being forced to do things that he doesn't want to do. I don't think that's the case. I think he wants to do it.
Okay, you spoke a lot about his families. I'm going to jump in here quickly and let's look at his family and look at the man in question, Mahinda Rajapaksa. He was born in the rural south and in 1970 became the youngest member of parliament at the age of 24. He went on to become Prime Minister and then President, narrowly winning elections in 2005. Rajapaksa was re-elected with 60% of votes cast in 2010. After being credited with ending the decades-long separatist war with the Tamil Tigers, he rewrote the constitution, we've been talking about this, to give himself sweeping powers over all aspects of government. He holds Sri Lanka's defence and finance portfolios, as well as those of ports, highways and aviation, while other members of his immediate family also serve as government ministers. Suren, I mean, his family's basically tied up every important portfolio. Something like 94 departments come under the control of the family. I mean, it's not a healthy-looking scenario, is it?
Definitely not. I mean, again, going back to Rajiva's argument about as if President Rajapaksa is innocent and everybody else is the reason why he's now forced to call an elections. Rajapaksa brought the 18th Amendment, which gave him the executive presidency almost like a dictator, dictatorial powers through constitution. It's Rajapaksa who is the commander-in-chief, who is accused of committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, and some people accuse him of going to a genocidal, to an extent of genocidal against the Tamil community. As head of state, he has immunity against the international law, but that's what he thinks. However, the day that he is beaten in an election and he is not the head of state, just as what happened to Charles Taylor or Milosevic or people like that who committed genocidal crimes and breached international law, Rajapaksa will be taken by the International Criminal Court and will be charged against for committing war crimes.
All right, let's
one last point about Rajiva. He said, just one point, Jane, just one point. Rajiva said the military fought almost a clean war. I just wondered, 140,000 people dead, white flag Sarandis dead, pictures to show, videos to show that handcuffed, blindfolded men and women sexually abused and killed. Child of 11-year-old children are being killed. Is that a kind of thing that you call a relatively clean war? What is international law? What is war crimes? What is crimes against humanity? I presume, I really do mean, I hope that Rajiva will go back and reflect on what he said.
Okay, Rajiva, several points made there. Do you foresee your president heading off to the International Criminal Court in The Hague anytime soon? And you just wonder what sort of person is going to be able to take him out of power so that he gets there.
Well, as I said, just as Ronald Reagan said years ago to Wandale, there you go again. And the problem with people like Suren is by putting up arguments that the majority of Sri Lankans think are complete nonsense.
Well, I have to say that the international community might agree with a lot of what Suren had to say.
I'm not concerned with the prejudices and of the international community. I have pointed out already on several occasions that the blanket charges being made are actually what has polarized our society to a great extent. Now, I'm not excusing things, but I'm explaining things. And I think you have to understand that one of the reasons Mahinda Rajapaksa feels beleaguered is that after he won the war, there was an immediate attempt to pin war crimes on him, and this had been going on long before. Now, when you have statements to say, it's essential to defeat Mahinda Rajapaksa in order to take him to The Hague, you're actually trying to ask the Sri Lankan people whether or not they think it's a better thing that Sri Lanka is without the Tigers or not. Now, I think we had an LLRC which actually produced an excellent report which most people, bar three, and I won't get into the details, thought was something we should work on. And I think it's regrettable that we didn't work on them. The couple of the points that are substantiated that Suren talked about are brought up in the LLRC. And I think it's a great pity that the government did not go into those questions. But I think this whole nonsense of 140,000, which is not based on any evidence at all except figures which the UN itself have said were exaggerated, because of the figures on which I was Secretary of the Ministry of Disaster Management and Human Rights, and
it's often rather hard getting factual evidence on the ground, isn't it, when you've got some of the activists and the NGOs being arrested?
It's precisely the type of nonsense that will actually lead to what I think might be an undesirable result in this election. I think it's important to concentrate on some of the points you made and which Harsha made, which is that there is a real fear amongst a lot of Sri Lankans that there's a lot of nepotism. I myself have been writing a review which is being published in the Sri Lankan papers, of something called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And half those dwarfs are members of the family who I think are leading him to destruction. I didn't say he was being forced by other people. I said that they have blockaded him because it's very easy for someone who has been in power for a long time to have his ears shut to what is going on around him. We found the same sort of thing happening to Margaret Thatcher, if you remember, obviously in a very different way. So I think one of the things we have to be very clear about is why is it that we would like the Sri Lankan people to have a change? And I think that is very, very different from the type of extraordinary, extreme allegation made by people like Suren. And I hope that the GTF will have the sense not to try to interfere in this election because they will pervert it.
Harsha, you've been desperate to jump in there. I mean, quite incredible sort of accusations levelled there. I want to add to that the clamping down of press freedom that we've been seeing and allegations of vote rigging in the last elections. Is it going to be different this time?
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm neither going to agree with Suren nor with... there are all kinds of allegations and the government has been saying, no, nothing happened, zero casualties and so on. So they seem to be extreme. What we should have done is to have a credible domestic investigation. And that is what was being pushed for a number of years. And the government just kept backtracking and, not getting it done. Now we are cornered and the government will need to face the music. But leave that aside. We have to appreciate, even though I'm an opposition member of parliament, that terrorism is no longer a threat here. And many people, both from the present government and from our party, have attempted to rid terrorism in Sri Lanka. So that we must park, and we have to go forward now. It is not winning the war; it is winning the peace. We have to live together. And what Suren is saying is correct, that we are fighting amongst the communities sponsored by extremist groups that are connected to the government. We had riots in Muslim, burnt churches. That's not on. We can't go on as a country, as a civilized society, if we don't stop these things from happening. And the very, very powerful brother of the president seem to be sanctioning some of these things. And I say seem to be because there isn't any hard evidence to prove, but there is enough substantial evidence to say that, look, there is a strong connection. So denials are not sufficient. The government must stop this in its tracks right now. But what is happening is people have realized they're not able to do it. Either they're not willing to do it, I don't know. They are unable to do it. So therefore, that is one of the main reasons we need to change this regime and bring a government that can unite the Sinhalese, Tamils and the Muslims of this country.
It seems that there's obviously a lot to fight for in Sri Lanka. Thank you for picking your way through the issues raised by this call for snap elections. Gentlemen, in Colombo we had Rajiva Wajasina, in Dublin Surendran, and also in Colombo Harsha De Silva. Thank you very much for talking to us on Inside Story. We'd obviously like to hear from you, so why not post your comments at facebook.com/AJ Inside Story or contact us on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. I'm Jane Dutton. Thank you very much for watching.